What I want to talk about today, though, is that third pillar, how we build the city that we want to leave to the next generation. In my time in this job, the thing that I have heard most consistently as a complaint from citizens is the way that we do street work here in Tulsa. When you think about what Tulsans pay for work on our streets and the inconvenience that they go through while the work is underway, Tulsans should be delighted with the finished product when a street project is completed. And yet what I've found is that that is almost never the case. It's a minority of cases in which people are really enthused with the finished product and can see that it's a great improvement in their quality of life. I think that the danger for any organization, and I found myself as mayor falling into this same trap, is to get defensive about the way that you do important work when people have criticism of it. To think in your mind, they just don't understand. And to tell each other in your organization that people just don't understand, and we know what we're doing, we're just going to keep doing it the way that we've always done it. For me, all of these problems as it relates to whether it's street work or other things that we do here at the city comes back to basically two kind of conflicting issues. And that is that way too often Tulsans feel like we as a city government are doing work without human beings in mind, and yet we also have an unbelievably talented engineering staff on our team. And so my staff and I have been evaluating this for the last year, looking at what's causing that conflict to occur. And what I've come to the conclusion is we just have things in the completely wrong order. And so today, after months of analysis, I'm here to present what I think is going to be a dramatic improvement on the way that we do this work in Tulsa. I'm not going to be a mayor who settles for the way that we have always done things. We want to build into our culture here as a city government that a sense of continuous improvement, that we are always focused on doing a better job tomorrow than we did today, and never getting defensive about the way that we've done things in the past. And so first, I want to announce the establishment of the Department of City Experience. This department will result from a merger of what was in the past known as the Working in Neighborhoods Department, the Tulsa Planning Office, the Mayor's Office of Resilience and Equity, the Special Projects team from the Engineering Department, as well as the Housing Policy Director. All of these folks will be merged into the Department of City Experience. This new department will work to build a beautiful city of neighborhoods by placing community engagement and quality design at the beginning of every bricks and mortar project that we do. Every citizen who wants to play a part in this work throughout the city is invited to do so on the front end of the process rather than at the end. To carry out all of that planning, I'm announcing the work of all that planning, rather. I'm announcing the establishment, or really the reestablishment, of the city's Public Works Department. This will result from a merger of what is today known as the Streets and Stormwater Department, as well as those engineers in our engineering department who work on projects under this new department's purview. This move will vertically integrate construction and maintenance so the new Public Works Department can focus on everything involving streets. You will have the engineers that design the projects working side by side with the people who implement the projects and maintain the projects after they're finished. Correspondingly, I will be merging the engineers that work on water and sewer projects into the Water and Sewer Department. These changes will all take place on July 1st, which is the start of the city's fiscal year, and they will not result in any job losses. In fact, we plan to add jobs as a result of this process. These changes, I think, will better align project implementation by placing our long-range planners with those who design the details of their vision. And then those designers will be working alongside the engineers who realize the technical aspects of the earlier work. And then those engineers will be working alongside the people implementing the finished work. This will establish a far more collaborative and linear approach to the way that we build Tulsa. And it will all start with the citizens' hopes for the city that they want to build. As I've said before, I think we have the best team of public servants anywhere at the city of Tulsa. And I'm excited about this opportunity that we will provide them for rewarding service to the citizens of Tulsa by changing the way that we envision and carry out our projects here in our city. It's a whole lot to throw at you. I will add one of the reasons we want to do this on July 1. As you can imagine, there's a lot of HR work that goes into that. And I want my colleagues on the council and I to have all of this in mind as we're developing the budget over the next several months. Be happy to answer questions that y'all have.
Mayor, you said that it's not going to cost any jobs. Nobody's going to lose their positions. Does this help streamline the bureaucracy? Does it help streamline how the city government's going to work moving forward, do you think?
Well, I think what it does is it streamlines the process and it puts people working side by side on teams on the projects that they're working on. So what we've found is just over time, I don't think this is anything malicious, it's just you have a giant organization that's been around for over 100 years, and over time, things get siloed. And so, like a good example was brought up in a meeting I had earlier today. If a constituent calls the city councilor right now and says, there's something wrong with the street in front of my house, it's falling apart, who does the city councilor call? Do they call the engineering department? Do they call the streets and stormwater department? What if it's a water leak underneath that's causing it? Do they call them? There is not, and that's just on a constituent concern on a project like that. So the goal of this is that we want to put people and design at the center of all the work we do, rather than it being something that I think has become, and unfortunately, it's hard on the staff, and it's also bad for the taxpayers when we do a project and then we make adjustments to it after the fact based on constituent complaints. We need to be reversing that to where citizens are involved on the front end in design and development of projects, and then it's seen through by experts, technical experts, who can bring urban design expertise, engineering expertise, and then the actual implementers are involved in that all the way through. So I believe it will streamline our processes substantially.
And is this all in your purview as executive, or does the council have to sign off on any of this, or is this essentially a done deal? And this is...
Yes, under our charter, the mayor has the authority to organize the city departments as they determine best for the city.
So does this mean before a new project starts, there will be like a 30-day public comment period or a mandatory, public meeting to get that input? No, that's a great question. So, what does that public input look like, and how is it involved? I think the key is you're going to have some projects that don't necessarily need a tremendous amount of community engagement. We are very fortunately right now shifting into a lot more mill and overlay work on streets that have already been renovated. We just got to go back and replace the asphalt on them every 5 to 6 years. You don't need a giant community engagement process to do a mill and overlay project. But if you're going to do let's use Yale between 81st and 91st as perhaps an extreme example, but a big project, you want the community engagement on what that's going to look like on the front end. You don't want Councilor Lakin to have to run around and hold town hall meetings with people 2 weeks before the design is supposed to be finished, which is what happened. And so we want that, not just the community engagement side, but we want the experts in urban design that we already have, by the way, working in the Tulsa Planning Office and in our engineering team, involved in that on the front end. And then also our long-range planners who are very familiar with the cities which the citizens and the city have invested in long-range plans. We want them involved in that on the front end as well. So you get all of that collaborative work done on the front end of a project, and then you turn it over
to the people who are experts in the very technical work of engineering that needs to be done to build quality projects, and then they're working side by side with the people who are going to carry out their work. Unfortunately, all of this has been siloed over time, and you just haven't had the level of collaboration or the citizen and design involvement on the front end that I think we need to do quality work.
So a lot of your public works is in the West Yard and things like that. Are you having to see people move offices for this? Or?
Yes, I mean, that's another reason that, that we're, this isn't something that we're implementing next week. We're talking about doing this 5 months from now. Because there's logistical issues about where all these teams are going to work and where they're placed. Those are things that we want to work through in a deliberate way over the next 5 months.
Will this improve timeline or timeliness of road repairs and upgrades?
I believe so, because you're going to have the teams that work on that all working together as one team. And then another issue, again, that we've run into is that we'll spend a lot of time on a project only to complete it and then get constituent feedback that it's not what the citizens wanted, and we have to go back and fix it, which draws out the duration of the project more. I won't get into naming individual ones just to save you the time, but you could name them all over the city and any city councilor could tell you off the top of their head projects where we've had that happen because we didn't do the design and community engagement work on the front end. So all we're doing is taking this new Department of City Experience, putting the experts together on one team to envision that and work with citizens to make it a reality, and then putting the project implementation team together.
Any concerns about projects or necessary projects getting held up over, citizen feedback and people saying, I don't want this?
Well, in my time at the city, one of the, I think, kind of challenges I've seen is, especially like when I was on the council, we did 3 different capital programs, and in the time that I've been mayor, we've done another one where council and the mayor will spend, and our team at the city will spend months, sometimes even years, engaging the citizens in what they want to put into a program. The citizens vote on it, fund it, and then years can go by before, just because of the way that the tax rolls come in, years can go by before work on the project begins. And then there's not the level of community engagement and urban design work that I feel needs to be done on the front end of that to make it the best project it can be. And again, our standard that we ought to be holding ourselves to as a city is that people ought to be delighted when a $20 million project is completed that they use every day. I can think of a handful where that has been the case. You think about where we did this the right way, Riverside Drive, realigning that next to the gathering place, and the sidewalk project that runs next to it. People were ecstatic when that opened because people were engaged on the front end, and you had great designers and community engagement on the front end to build something that the citizens wanted. That should be the model that we're aiming for citywide. My focus on this really came into play about a year ago when I was thinking about the job that I do as mayor and where do I settle for less and where should I be pushing our team to do a better job. And what I found was, after 8 years on the council and 1 term as mayor, I was falling into the trap of thinking, you know what, street projects, that's just the way they are in Tulsa. And that should not be just the way they are. When a street project is completed, the people who use it should be delighted with the end result because they played a part in it and it reflects their aspirations for our city, especially, again, with the amount of money that we spend on these projects and the time that they take.
Last week, the director of the Association of Oklahoma General Contractors expressed concern about dealing with the city.
Mm-hmm.
Will this reorganization address some of those concerns they had of not being heard and a toxic culture?
I honestly don't know because they have not given me their specific concerns yet. I've talked with Mr. Stem. I want to be clear, though, one thing that's very important. while I think what we're talking about today addresses some of the symptoms that he described, this is not in response to a press conference from Friday. This is something that we've been working on for a year. But I think the fact that he is coming forward with those concerns speaks to larger issues that we've also recognized and that my colleagues on the council have recognized need to be addressed. So we're scheduling a meeting for me to meet with him and representatives of his team so I can get a better understanding. I've had a great working relationship with him in the time that I've been mayor. We've worked together on reforming our SBE program and a number of other things here at the city. I don't know why he held a press conference instead of just bringing his concerns to me on Friday, but we're going to work through that. And as I told him, I'm eager to hear from his members how we can do a better job.
On that note, how does this announcement, you think, affect communication or just bidding processes and overall processes with contractors for these street projects?
Well, my hope is that it dramatically improves the experience for contractors as well, because the contractor is going to have confidence that they're going in and building something that a tremendous amount of thought and community engagement has been put into that on the front end, and they're not going to get complaints after the fact that they then have to go back and change. And so we're creating an environment of far greater predictability for contractors. And by streamlining our own internal processes, I am confident we'll be streamlining processes for them as well.
Time for a couple more questions.
Is there going to be any improved coordination with ODOT because of this? Because sometimes people feel like their side of town gets it all at once. Is there going to be any kind of, I don't know, extra or better communication with ODOT to try to, maybe your highway that's next to your house and your street next to your house isn't being worked on at the same time?
I think we have excellent communication with ODOT. Of course, their decisions on what they do on projects are their decisions to make. Where I think we can be helpful to them on the work that we're going to do is that a lot of the work that we're going to do around planning and urban design on the front end will necessarily impact a lot of the projects that they do. And so I can think of several in my mind that we're working together with them on right now that I think they would be excited to know how we can work together on that and develop, again, everybody I know in public service wants to deliver something that their customers, the citizens, are going to be really happy with. I've never met, definitely not on our team or at the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, who've intentionally wanted to design things that people don't like. And so if we are developing a process that can lead to outcomes where folks are excited about that highway project or that street project or that new park rec center or whatever it might be, I think that's going to be better for the employees overall.
Mayor, the idea's been floated of maybe reconfiguring the IDL and restoring some access to Greenwood and sort of reinvigorating that area. Is there anything concrete happening? Is it just discussion at this point? Just quickly show you.
Oh, yeah, no. So speaking of ODOT, I mean, the city of Tulsa partnered with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation and I think about 17 different local stakeholders, including Senator Kevin Matthews, Greenwood Cultural Center, Greenwood Rising, on submitting a grant application to U.S. Department of Transportation to do the study that's necessary to decide what's best on that leg of the IDL. The challenge for us, and I think for ODOT, who owns the highway, is that you hear cost estimates that are all over the place. And there are, I think it's 60,000 cars a day that drive on that leg of the IDL. You can't just close it down and hope that they figure out where to go after that. Like, you've got to be, anytime you do transportation planning, you have to be very deliberate about what the impact of the decisions you make is going to be on the people who use your infrastructure. So what we've asked for is federal funding to help the city and ODOT and all these other constituent community stakeholders do that analysis, so then we know what the costs would be and what the options are out there.
I have one more question on the specific announcement. Yeah.
Mayor, who's going to be leading, and you said this at the beginning, with the department, city experience, and the public works department. Have you figured that out yet?
No. So these departments, because they are expansions and mergers of several other departments, they'll be advertised, and there'll be an application process over the next 5 months for people to apply for.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you all very much.